Come behind the scenes with USA Today to the White House to see the Kansas City Chiefs and maybe Taylor Swift. When we arrived, the fun started almost immediately in the White House press briefing room when some NFL vets
y'all stop asking me these questions. Okay.
And current Chiefs players showed up. I even got in a question about next season.
Yeah, next NFL season? Well, there's this great new kickoff rule.
Yeah.
It's really going to allow me to shine, so I'm excited.
Then it was time to head out, and we saw the team of the hour.
Champions, the Kansas City Chiefs.
A certain pop star wasn't in the audience, but we did get the president trying on a football helmet. Afterwards, a few more players wandered in, and we learned some interesting information.
Who are the funniest players?
Funniest player.
I have a bunch of kids entering the workforce that say, I don't like to work past 4 o'clock. You want to be successful in what you do, you're supposed to be first in the morning and close up shop. Somebody will notice that.
And Judge Judy says it's the Gen Z they're noticing isn't appreciating that. That age group runs from 12 to 27, and to hear the good judge talk about it, and a lot of bosses, that is the most unreliable workforce on the planet. I don't know if my next guest agreed. Gigi Robinson, creator economy expert, Gen Z herself. Allie Breen joins us, comedian extraordinaire, millennial, I guess, so a tad more time to sort of reflect on all of this. So, Gigi, let me ask you, is your generation worthless?
I don't think my generation's worthless. I think that Gen Z grew up as the first digitally native generation, and we're used to information fast, and we're used to information and work and getting back to people within seconds. And so I think that, you know, are we worthless? No. But do we have our work cut out for us in terms of traditional workforce? Absolutely.
Okay, you're no boomer, young lady. That's all I'll say. I'm kidding. Allie, what do you make of all this, the back and forth on whether that group is up to the job?
I mean, I think it's our own fault that they might not be. We're letting them graduate basically with a major in vegan arts and a minor in Taylor Swift at this point, and we're paying off all their loans after that's done. I mean, this generation is expecting to get their dream job. They want gluten-free options in the cafeteria. They want to sit on yoga balls while they work.
And the problem with that
is they feel attacked
is
if they don't get that.
Okay.
Productivity, apparently. You end up like a Sam Bankman-Fried.
Oh, man. But Gigi, I guess what a lot of these bosses are saying, you can't be corrected. You're very sensitive to that. You don't like anyone telling you what to do. By the way, I've heard various generations of, targeted for that sort of thing. But how do you feel about that? That maybe you're being unfairly targeted?
I think part of the issue is in communication. As I mentioned before, young kids, specifically Gen Z, is known as the loneliest generation. And so when you take a generation that's already struggling with communication with their peers and you expect them to just fit in normally or not have any problems at work, I think that's where the disconnect with this whole thing is. And I think that we have to take better care of young people's mental health, and also the older people in the workforce need to communicate maybe in newer ways and or teach younger people how to communicate in older ways, which they might be
real quickly, Allie, that sounds like you not doing your job.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess my generation's used to actually writing emails, and Gen Z is responding in GIFs and emojis, which is probably good for communication off of the work site. But during work, I mean, you don't want to approve multi-million deals with like a thumbs up or a winky face. So there is probably a bit of a disconnect, and there's probably a middle ground that we can all reach. But yeah, there's a divide right now for sure.
All right. Well, again, you're not exactly boomers yourselves, but I mean, you're trying. Keep at it. I'm proud of both of you. Thank you very much for that. Really, we wanted to make light of this, but not too much light of it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Return to South Africa's election, where the parties are gearing up for coalition talks as the African National Congress looks certain to lose its outright majority for the first time since the end of apartheid. Well, let's cross over now to speak to our Africa correspondent, Barbara Plett-Usher, who joins us from Johannesburg. So, Barbara, where are we with the results? 99% of voting districts declared so far, so very, very close to getting the full result now.
Yes, that's right. So I don't think we're going to have too many surprises between 99% and 100%. We pretty much know the landscape, which shows that the African National Congress has definitely lost its absolute majority, as you mentioned, its unrivaled political power that it's held since apartheid, but it's done worse than expected. It's showing to come in at around 40% of the vote. Now, those results aren't official. They're actually not going to be declared officially today, probably tomorrow, Sunday, but they're unlikely to change. So I think this is very much being seen as a verdict of South Africans who are fed up, who want change, who are punishing the African National Congress for years of economic mismanagement and corruption scandals. Add to that this new party, the MK party, led by the former president Jacob Zuma, which has had a surprisingly strong showing and has really eaten into a lot of the ANC support. So the results of that are not very good for this party, the former liberation movement.
So in that case, Barbara, how does it work out? Who is talking to who in order to form some form of government?
Well, that's what we're all trying to find, and I think there are a lot of different discussions being held now to lay the groundwork for something a little bit more formal. But what I can say is that those talks are complicated and will continue to be complicated, because if the ANC is to share power, and it is still the largest party, it has to find a partner, and there's no easy fit. You have, for example, the second largest party, the Democratic Alliance, and very much not somebody that the U.S., not a party that the ANC would see as a natural coalition partner because of its free market agenda and because it's got a reputation as the party for the white minority. But then the second and third largest parties are on the radical left, with manifestos that are calling for the nationalization of mines and banks and for seizing white-owned property. Again, not an easy thing to try to make into a government agenda. So it's going to be interesting to see how they square this circle. But I think we're looking at some turbulent coalition talks ahead, and which will help to shape which direction the country goes.
Okay, Barbara Plett, usher there in Johannesburg. Thank you so much. And we are continuing to monitor the South Africa election on our website as well. So lots more detail there. But for the time being, for the team there in Johannesburg, thank you very much.
Fact-checking claims about Trump's criminal conviction in New York. Former President Donald Trump's guilty verdict on 34 counts of falsifying business records has led to an array of false and misleading claims. Here's a few we've debunked so far. At a press conference on May 31st, Trump said he faces up to 187 years in prison when he is sentenced this summer. And a similar claim on Instagram said he faces 136 years behind bars. But this is false, as neither number reflects what Trump is actually facing. Each of the 34 counts carries a maximum sentence of 4 years, and sentences can be imposed consecutively, meaning they must be served one after the other. But New York law says consecutive sentences for this class of felony can't total more than 20 years. Legal experts said a 20-year sentence is unlikely, given that Trump is a first-time nonviolent offender. A separate Facebook post claims the jury did not need a unanimous verdict to convict Trump. That's wrong. A conviction on each of the 34 felony counts required a unanimous verdict from the jury, according to the judge's jury instructions. The claim likely stemmed from confusion over instructions noting jurors didn't have to agree on what specific acts Trump committed to cover up election interference. Another viral social media claim implies that this video shows a crowd celebrating Trump's conviction. It's actually an altered version of a video that originally showed a crowd celebrating England's last-minute soccer goal against Wales in 2016. The video has since become a meme template, edited to show supposed reactions to various news events.
I like Joe Biden, and I worked with him, and I was grateful to work with him. The question is whether at this age he should have run. But he did run. It's Trump and Biden. I mean, you can take the easy way out and say, well, I'm not going to vote for either of them. But one of those guys is going to be president of the United States. And people ought to focus on that and give up on the sort of fantasy of that there's going to be another candidate.
Former Obama campaign advisor David Axelrod saying the November election is Biden versus Trump again. whether you like it or not. Here to react, Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Joe, welcome. I was looking at this clip. He also said in there, which I think is really fascinating, he said, you know, this is not 1968, and there's no generation of elders who can go to the White House and convince Biden not to run. He's not going anywhere. Wow, that says to me that David Axelrod would have liked to have had a group of elders. They wanted him to not run. They couldn't get him or Jill to agree to that. And so here we are. He doesn't sound happy about the fact that Joe Biden's a candidate.
Oh, Rachel, if you've listened to David Axelrod, a smart guy, he won 2 campaigns with Obama. If you've listened to him over the past year and a half, he has begged practically without saying it, Joe Biden to back out of the race. And I think what this tells us, given the source, is that Michelle Obama wants no part of jumping into this race or any race. Remember, Axelrod worked for Barack Obama. He has a very close relationship, obviously, with the former First Lady. She has a very nice life right now, living on an estate. She should have its own zip code on Martha's Vineyard, right? Mm-hmm. And outside of a mostly symbolic role at Netflix, she hasn't worked anything resembling a real job in 3 decades. Then you look at Gavin Newsom, and he can't run on, Make America California again. That's not going to fly given the state of California. And with Kamala Harris polling lower somehow than Joe Biden, your only option right now is an 81-year-old Joe Biden, and they're not going to replace him at the convention because you can't be the party that swears it is the only option to save democracy from Donald Trump and at the same time proceed to insert a candidate like they would in the Soviet Union during your convention by the party power brokers without one primary vote being cast by the people to decide who their nominee is.
I guess
Joe, it's full steam ahead with Joe Biden. And we don't use full steam very often with this president who's aging like potato salad left out in the sun, but this is their guy. I mean, we got to face it.
Well, I don't know. I think you underestimate the communist things this party, the Democrat Party, is willing to do and somehow seems to get away with. Let's move to this, because in that same discussion, they talked about the third-party candidate, RFK Jr. I know you heard what they had to say about it. What are your thoughts about whether, who that will hurt the most, RFK Jr.'s presence in the race?
I use basic logic, and I think if RFK Jr. is a Democrat, then therefore he hurts the incumbent who is also a Democrat. I don't see where Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's an old school liberal, but, a former environmental lawyer, he may still be that. How does he possibly take votes from Donald Trump, given the huge gap in policy differences? And everybody always points to, well, they agree on the vaccines. Well, the vaccines aren't a thing anymore. 2021, I might buy that. It isn't now. It's Trump versus Biden. Right now, I'll leave it here, Rachel. Post-conviction, 2 polls out, Donald Trump is seeing a bump post-conviction while Joe Biden continues to struggle. That is very telling, Rachel.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Always great getting your take on these things. Take care.
I'm Steve Doocy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.